Need your daily fix on mixed martial arts?
We're going to kind of recap Bellator 155.
From UFC 198.
Who's who?
Kind of a controversial decision.
And who's not?
I couldn't figure out why, and then it hit me.
Well, don't you fret, because Golden State Media Concepts got you covered. Get your daily dose of MMA podcasts. Everything from the UFC, Bellator Fighting Championships, Extreme Cage Fighting, Invicta Fighting Championships, and so much more. Join us as we talk about some of the biggest names in mixed martial arts. We've got you covered here on Golden State Media Concepts MMA Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC MMA Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Arnel De Leon, and hopefully you are doing well for yourself. You, your friends, your family, whether you live in the States or internationally, I hope you're doing fine for yourself during a time of major uncertainty. Sports, well, we got basketball, we got football, everyone's all excited for sports right now. Just outside as I'm talking right now, in the time of this recording, there are people going out and watching football. Currently, as I'm speaking right now, the Celtics and Miami Heat game is currently going on. And there's a lot of things going on with that game. The Miami Heat, there's an underdog team. No one expected them to be really that good. They still eliminated the championship Milwaukee, the MVP / Defensive Player of the Year leading Giannis Antetokounmpo from the Milwaukee Bucks. They eliminated them in the second round in a shocking upset right now. So the world of basketball is incredibly excited, and I am incredibly excited also for the upcoming UFC pay-per-view coming up. We have a double top. We have the vacant light heavyweight title match between John Blachowicz and Dominic Reyes, and then the long-awaited Paulo Costa versus Israel Adesanya coming up next Saturday. I'm excited for it. Also, it's my birthday, so I'm gonna... Okay, here's the thing. So I will bring all my friends over to Buffalo Wild Wings, because Buffalo Wild Wings, it has reopened up. I've been there. Apparently there are lines going on right now at Buffalo Wild Wings, and I'm gonna wear a mask. Me and my friends are gonna wear a mask. We're gonna socially distance ourselves. We're gonna make sure that our table is far away from everyone else. We're gonna make sure that our table gets brought up first, and we're gonna go have a good old, friends, hot spicy chicken wings, and mixed martial arts. That's my birthday pretty much in a nutshell, and I'm excited for it. Now let's talk about UFC Fight Night. Woodley versus Covington. Okay. Gonna be straight up honest with you right now. It was a night of really fun, awesome fights. Khamzat Chimaev versus Gerald Meerschaert. That was a fun fight. Donald Cerrone versus Nico Price. It sucks it ended the way it did, with the first round with Nico Price getting a minus points. You know what? I'll get into it later. It sucked. It became a majority draw. But you know what? Still a fun fight. Johnny Walker versus Ryan Spann. Back and forth action. Mackenzie Dern versus Randall Marcos. Really impressive showing there by Dern, while at the same time also embarrassing himself. There'll probably be like a GIF loop of her missing the roundhouse kick and falling back, to the back of her head. But overall, it was a fun night of action here. But let's talk about the main event. Tyron Woodley versus Colby Covington. Colby Covington, he won the fight. I think by TKO. Or submission. I'm not really sure, actually. Because it was a weird fight from beginning to end. A weird payoff. And I agree with John Anik saying... After the fight, John Anik on commentary team said, "Wow, talk about a disappointing conclusion." And you know what? I'll be honest. I was not disappointed watching Tyron Woodley versus Colby Covington, because Tyron Woodley versus Colby Covington, this main event, this apparent blood feud, was exactly what I thought it would be. The last episode of the podcast last week, I was talking about how I was not excited for Woodley versus Covington because I knew this fight was going to be really boring. And to be honest with you, it definitely was boring, and I'll explain to you how weird, how boring, and how awkward the fight is from beginning to end here. First off, so it's never been this bad, right? It's never been this bad in terms of the UFC presentation, but commercials were just cut right in the middle. Because usually in a UFC pay-per-view event or a UFC Fight Night event, ESPN card, no matter what happens, you are seeing the commercial from beginning to end. Alright then? You're going to see the full commercial from beginning to end, and then you cut away back to the octagon. You cut away back to the commentary team, you cut away to the fighter sitting in the stool, you cut away to a fighter about to make his entrance, you cut away to Bruce Buffer, you cut away from a long shot of the octagon while the camera is slowly panning around it. That's typically how it goes. Instead, Woodley vs. Covington, we have like random bursts of commercials in between rounds that were not complete or finished. Like there was a commercial going right now where it was supposed to be about a person working their job from home, but they're not able to work their job from home because their dog literally keeps like putting their paw on the laptop. And then you hear the narrator. It's like, hey, you should go and look out for your best friend. And it cuts away to Colby Covington in the middle of his entrance. He does the Kurt Angle entrance in a no audience empty arena, and the camera cuts. No, the show cuts into him during the middle of the entrance where he's already like holding up the flag. The presentation looks off, and then as Colby Covington is about to step foot, no, he's not even no. Just when he is outside and there's like a ringside physician checking up on Colby Covington, the camera cuts to Tyron Woodley, who was already there inside the octagon. Former welterweight champ, one of the all-time greats, Tyron Woodley. He gets the pro wrestling jobber entrance. He just teleported in there. Not only that, there's typically when a fighter makes his entrance, you see in the bottom left hand of the screen like a lower thirds of like Colby Covington, was a great wrestler in Oregon State. Like third most all-time in takedowns in the welterweight division, high striking proficiency. And then when they cut away to Tyron Woodley, it was, and now you hear John Anik. Now we see Tyron Woodley. And then the lower third pops. It says Tyron Woodley. Tyron Woodley, former welterweight champion. And then the lower third just goes away. It's like Tyron Woodley, former champion. Had a knockout against Robbie Lawler. Had a striker efficiency, and like you have to, if you blink it, you're gonna miss Tyron Woodley's lower third, because you see Colby Covington's lower third for like maybe 7 to 11 seconds, and then you go to Tyron Woodley, and in the span of like 3.5 seconds, the lower third is gone. It pretty much like it's so bizarre. The presentation is so bizarre because we get commercial of a dog, narrator is cut away mid-sentence to cut to Colby Covington, who is already in the middle of his Kurt Angle pro wrestling entrance that requires an audience feedback and audience interaction with no audience members there. And he's holding up the flag, and then Tyron Woodley is already over there. It's so confusing. It is so confusing, so off, so awkward. And then Bruce Buffer, like, he comes in. He's all like, ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the fight here. We got Tyron Woodley, Colby Covington. But as he's saying, fighting from this side, former champion Tyron Woodley. Tyron Woodley just looks bored and vapid to be there. He doesn't want to be there, man. Tyron Woodley is there. That's Tyron. I'm here for my paycheck, Woodley. And then he goes on to like, and fighting from this corner, we from Oregon, we got Colby Covington. And as he's saying Colby Covington comes in and he gives Bruce Buffer an awkward fist bump. He's like, come here, Colby, chaos, Covington, bump, ton. And it wasn't even a high fist bump, it was like a low fist bump in that the camera almost cut out the fist bump. And then the referee brings together both Woodley and Colby Covington. They both meet on the center of the octagon. And then Woodley extends his right arm out for a bro fist, but it's kind of limp. He's got a really limp-looking bro fist where it's like very low. And then Covington, he was thinking about it. He legitimately thought about it. And then he just like jogged back. It was weird. So he gave Bruce Buffer a weak bro fist, low bro fist that was almost cut off camera. Then Woodley was trying to go for a low bro fist, even though this was a... Oh, man. I thought this was a blood feud. This is like a blood feud. But Colby Covington gets the blood feud part, so he's like, you know what, I hate you, Tyron Woodley. I'm not going to give you a bro fist. But why did Tyron Woodley give a bro fist? Just... Oh, man. Oh, man, this fight. It's bizarre. Presentation is bizarre. Okay, so already... This is right after the co-main event of Nico Price versus Don Cerrone, which was a stellar, fun fight. That fight made me amped. Nico Price made me amped. I was excited for the main event because Nico Price was apparently excited, and that made me excited. So he's excited. We get the fight going on. All right, then. A part of me wants to be wrong. Wait, no, a part of me wanted me to be wrong about this fight. A part of me wants to be like, all right, I was really a Debbie Downer for Woodley versus Covington. Hopefully, this fight is actually going to be exciting. It's not going to be Covington pressuring Woodley the entire time, and I'm annoyingly watching Woodley just not do anything for the most part. And the best strategy to fight against Colby Covington is just press forward. And here's the thing, he's got no knockout power. The dude's got no knockout power. That guy doesn't knock out people. He just doesn't. He just pressures the heck out of you. And, oh man, and this is constantly repeated over and over again. So first round. Alright then. First round comes up. Woodley, for the first minute of the fight, is actually the one putting the pressure on Covington. In the span of 25 minutes, the first 1 minute of the fight was the only 1 minute to which Woodley was actually dictating the pace of the fight. And Covington immediately took him down. And despite the fact that Woodley is a great wrestler, Woodley, just like the Kamaru Usman fights, it's like Woodley just like a fish out of water, man. You can't really do anything here. So Covington takes down Woodley, just ground and pounding him. No, not even really necessarily ground and pounding him. More like Covington versus Woodley and Kamaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal are the picture-perfect fights that turn away people from not even wanting to be a fan of mixed martial arts. I'll be honest with you. It's a fight, like they're both overhyped fights where we got one guy who is really good at striking who struggles on his back, and we got a grappler taking down the guy, and the grappler's striking prowess isn't all that strong, and his punching power isn't that much threatening, actually, that you could be like, oh wow, you better watch out for the takedown here because he's going to knock you out on the ground. Like, no. That ain't happening. And then Covington, he wins the second round, but Woodley actually gets a takedown in. Tyron Woodley. It's been a long time since I've seen Woodley. Actually, no. I think the last time Woodley ever got a takedown was in the second round. Maybe. In the Wonderboy Stephen Thompson fights. I don't know if it was really a takedown, but more of a knockdown. They just sprawled through. But Woodley actually gets a takedown on Covington. But Covington just stands right to back up. They start clinching. A whole lot of clinching. Covington takes down Woodley with a single leg. He grapples with him. Continues to grapple with the guy. Woodley's on the ground. He can't really do much. Alright then. I got my notes here. Commentary team in second round go weird. Yes, commentary team go off. I think Paul Felder, who I think so was like John Anik, Paul Felder, and Dominic Cruz. So, Dominic Cruz never shuts up on commentary. Ever. Like, he can just ramble on forever with any of the fights happening. He talked extensively in the Cerrone, Nico Price, Chimaev, Walker. Like, he talked extensively a lot. He fulfilled his role as a color commentator. So did Paul Felder. But oh my goodness, in just the second round, 2 minutes into the second round, Dominic Cruz has nothing to say, man. Cruz has nothing to say. Paul Felder already is super snarky. We got John Anik, who is, at this point, trying to come up with things to say. As in, yep, Look at Woodley over there. Ain't doing so good. Yep. Covington there. He's got double underhooks in. And double underhooks are really important because then you're controlling your opponents. Yep. That's a double underhook. And a single leg takedown right there by Covington. Then you hear Paul Felder, like, literally groan on commentary. So coming up after the short break here, I'll continue to be talking about Woodley versus Covington for this UFC Fight Night event. Coming up right after the short break, I'll see you soon.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
And we are back. I am talking about UFC Fight Night Covington versus Tyron Woodley. Oh my goodness. So I was talking about this fight, how boring it is and how not enjoyable. And that's not me being like, okay, I just prefer two guys knocking each other. No. I've seen wrestling matches that are interesting to me, okay? I've seen this stuff. But when it gets to a point where the commentary team are openly bored, and how obviously bored they are, when you got Paul Felder on the side here being like, yep, it'd be really cool if they, did something. And you hear Dominic Cruz, a guy who never shuts up, is like, yeah, Covington on top here. Punching from top is good. And John Anik in the middle of this, by the way, like, in the second round here, he's all like, yep, takedown over there. Yep, can't really say anything else. You guys got anything to say? Felder's like, ugh, and Dominic Cruz is like, well, I'm waiting for something to happen. Third round, the commentary team are officially surly. The point of no return surly. First round, they were amped. They're excited. Dominic Cruz was excited to see Tyron Woodley. Paul Felder was like, oh my gosh, look at Tyron Woodley, man. He's being aggressive here. John Anik doing his play-by-play stuff. Third round here. Colby Covington ended up clinching with Tyron Woodley on the cage for 4 out of the total 5 minutes. 4 out of the 5 minutes he was clinching. And he clinched like 3 minutes and 50 seconds straight on the cage. Straight. I understand. There were it was already bad already. That we had a lot of eye pokes happening. Not on this fight, but in the rest of the card also. Like Nico versus Cerrone. That fight had a whole lot of eye pokes. And eye pokes, they give John Anik a reason. It's like something to talk about. He's like, yep, Woodley gets an eye poke there. Let's look at the replay. Yep, that is an eye poke. Dominic Cruz, tell us why eye pokes are bad. And Cruz like, well, eye pokes are bad actually because they limit your vision. And Paul Felder's like, I agree with you, Dominic Cruz. Eye pokes are definitely a thing that we need to talk about. And gloves are being a real issue here. It gives both Woodley and Covington time to think and really breathe a lot. So, and here's the thing. Woodley took a lot of time. He took his time trying to cover from the eye poke. Good on him. You know what? That's him, all right? But from a fan's perspective, we dealt with these two guys poking each other with jabs for about 30 seconds. And then after that, then we had an eye poke. Woodley takes all the time in the world for his eye poke recovery. Then Woodley becomes aggressive. There were like 30 seconds of actual action in this 5-minute fight. This 5-minute round. Then it leads... I don't know why this happened, but in the middle... No. In the beginning of this whole clinching thing, John Anik has something to say, Cruz has nothing to say, Paul Felder has something to say, and then you can hear John Anik be like, you know what? The referee. It's a difficult job to be a referee. And Dominic Cruz is like, yeah, man. Being a referee, I'm pretty sure is difficult. John Anik then brings up Joe Rogan. He's like, you know what? Joe Rogan said in his podcast that referees shouldn't really shouldn't break up fights. And I'm thinking about agreeing with him. And then you hear Paul Felder just smirking. He's like, yeah, no. Break up this. And then Dominic Cruz has nothing to say. John Anik is saying, well, he's just trying to play devil's advocate at this point. Well, Covington, he's got position on Woodley with the clinch here on the cage. And I believe, in the pure sense of the sport here, it's not right for Dan Magliana to go and break up this clinch because it gives a disadvantage, because it takes away the advantage of Colby Covington. And here's the thing, John Anik isn't wrong about that. Like, even Joe Rogan is not wrong about that. But that doesn't stop the fact that it's not boring, okay then? Like, I understand mathematics and geometry and trig and calculus. That's all important. It is important. But there's no way you can ever go tell me, hey, Arnel, go answer these 100 questions about tan and cosine. Like, I'm not going to do that. I don't care how important it is. I ain't doing math. And I don't care how important it is that it's good for the fighter who has clinch position on their opponent, that their advantage will be taken away. No, it's still boring. It's still boring to watch. It's not enjoyable. When your commentary team are not enjoying this, and they're supposed to be trying hard. Okay, I remember Joe Rogan. There was one, I think it was the Wonder Boy Tyron Woodley fight, where the second one, where the crowd were cheering boring, and it was considered one of the most boring fights in the history of mixed martial arts. And then Joe Rogan goes on to say, well, these fans here who think this fight is boring, it's not boring. It's actually exciting. And it's because you're too ignorant to understand. No, it's boring. It's not because of ignorance. This third round sucked the life away of Anik, Cruz, and Felder. It sucked the life out of them. Covington takes Woodley to the ground and starts clinching him again. Alright then. Fourth round, Colby Covington takes down Woodley. Gets some ground and pound. Woodley's cut up. Cruz still has nothing to say. Felder is just beside himself. Then we go to the fifth round here. What happened in the fifth round? Well, okay, I'll be talking about the fifth round and the aftermath here. So, Colby Covington attempted a takedown. Woodley almost got guillotine choke in. But as Woodley was trying to position himself for the guillotine choke, he injured his own ribs somehow. And then the referee came in. No, you hear Woodley being like, "Ah, man, my ribs," while Colby Covington, like, he's almost in the guillotine. He's like punching like the hip of Tyron Woodley. Then the referee goes up and says, "The fight is over." And Covington looks at the referee, looks all confused, like, "I won?" And he's like, "Yeah!" Like he starts running. He goes on in full on pro wrestler mode. He's like, "Yeah, man, I defeated Woodley. Yeah, man, talk about damage." I don't know. Covington has to be trolling in that moment. He has to be. There's no way Covington can rewatch that fight, or if he ever does rewatch his fights. But if Covington were to watch that fight, there's no way with a straight face he can be like, "Yeah, man, that was a butt whooping there that I gave to Woodley." Oh man. So Woodley apparently injured himself. Then we hear John Anik say the words, "Talk about a disappointing conclusion." Dominic Cruz goes on to say that Woodley injured himself with his guillotine choke. And so Colby Covington won. Paul Felder is beside himself. Cruz is confused. John Anik is disappointed. Then we get to the awkward Colby Covington interview. And I thought to myself, okay, so not only was this fight boring, not only did we miss out in a definitive conclusion, because Tyron Woodley practically injured himself. Not only did he injure himself, he was just not motivated to be in this fight because Woodley has had a bad string of fights lately, to which the dude just doesn't push at all in the action. The guy's a great wrestler. I remember the commentary team doing about this. Like, they're trying their best to push Tyron Woodley to make him seem legitimate by saying things that we know, but what they're saying versus what we're seeing is not what's actually happening here. Like, they're saying Tyron Woodley, one of the greatest welterweights of all time. Then you see just Woodley just breathing heavily. Then John Anik is like, Tyron Woodley there, he's a Division I wrestling champion, and Tyron Woodley he's in the ground for like 4 consecutive minutes, man, just struggling to get up. And Donald Cruz is like, yeah, man, Division I champion. The dude definitely can wrestle. We haven't seen him wrestle good lately. Just, oh man, they were just trying their best to sell how good Woodley is, but they end up burying the guy. It came to a point where John Anik, for some reason, started talking about, look at Tyron Woodley. The guy's in great shape, isn't he? You would love to walk around without a shirt looking like that. Then Felder and Cruz, in agreement, are like, yeah, man, Tyron Woodley, man, he's got great physique, dude. He looks great. Like, I could go to the beach and just, take off my shirt and look like him, man. Oh, man, that would be awesome. Woodley's being ground and pounded here. And so, after all this, how are we going to officially end this rivalry here? Obviously, with an awkward Colby Covington promo. It wasn't even an interview. It was him cutting a freaking pro wrestling promo. John Anik, he asked Colby Covington, hey, Colby, so what do you think about the fight? And Colby Covington was like, yeah, man, you saw that? You saw me kick his butt, man? Yeah, man, if you want to see a real butt kicking here, you should go wait for November 20 when Donald Trump is able to go and destroy and kick the butt of Joe Biden, and then you hear John Anik very angrily goes on, you can hear him, he's like, stop, just stop. Then Colby Covington freezes in the middle of his promo about Donald Trump, and he's like, by the way, huge shout out to a lot of the people out there, first responders. Then you hear John Anik be like, yeah. And then Colby Covington goes out there. He's like, you know what? I'm sick and tired of these woke athletes like LeBron James. And I can guarantee you, if the camera were to pan over to John Anik or turn on to John Anik, you could just see John Anik. He'll probably roll his eyes or sigh in relief or just groan. Because I was groaning the entire promo, actually. This is so cringy. It is super awkward. And he's trying way too hard to the point that's comical. And also to the point where I just want to turn off the channel. But alright then. So, Covington, he already pisses off John Anik by promoting Donald Trump in the debate against Joe Biden. Then he brings up, first responders. Good. And then he reels back, and then he brings back in, like, hey man, LeBron James, all these woke athletes, man, yeah! And he's like screaming and he's yelling from the camera, like very closely. Audio levels are spiking. He then challenges Usman and Jorge Masvidal to a fight, and then he just walks off. Not only does he walk off to the wrong door. Like, he's like, yeah, man, Jorge Masvidal, Street Jesus, I'm coming for you! And then he walks out. John Anik is confused because he's like, the interview isn't over yet. Covington then goes towards a door, and that's not the right door. And then some person had to go and tap him in the shoulder and be like, no, Colby, that's the door. It's such a weird scenario of what happened there. It was so weird because he's like, yeah, man, Street Jesus, you're going down. I'm going to exit that way. What? That's on the exits? And then he kind of slowly shuffles his way through, and he turns, and it goes from him being amped up and him being excited to him being looking confused and be like, wait a minute, where do I go? Do I go that way? Okay. And then like some security guard stops him. Some guy stops him. Hey, no, stop, Colby. You can't go here. What? You can go through here? Okay, you can go through. And Colby Covington looks around, looks to his right, he looks to his left, and then he X's out. Then the camera does like a fade transition to a pan shot of the octagon, and you don't hear any of the commentators at all. They go back to Anik being like, "Yep, that was a night of fights there, wasn't it?" That has to be the most awkward main event I've ever seen in my life. That was the biggest train wreck. That was the biggest 5-round train wreck I've witnessed from beginning to end. From Woodley getting the jobber entrance, from the commentary team being surly, to commercials in between breaks being cut awkwardly, with Covington being in the middle of his entrance with his Kurt Angle song popping in while there's no crowd there, with the random bro fisting, with a weird idea of what's a feud, what is the feud happening right now, with the weird promo package to which both Covington and Woodley had like one line. They had one line that wasn't used from another interview, which meant that both Covington and Woodley were just not available to cut actual promos, and they're just reusing promos from other times they did interviews with like MMA Junkie or MMA Fighting or at ESPN. Awkward. It was an awkward train wreck. Awkward fight. Boring fight. Awkward interview. Awkward aftermath. Oh man, let's talk. After a short break here, I'll be talking about the rest of the card here, because the rest of the card, unlike this fight, was awesome. Coming back after the short break here.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play. This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA, to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
And we are back. We're talking about UFC Fight Night Covington versus Woodley. Although the main event is certainly something, it's something. I want to talk about the co-main event, the best fight of the night, Donald Cerrone versus Nico Price. And when I'm looking at my notes here, it is the fight with the least amount of notes. And the reason was because both fighters just threw everything. Specifically Nico Price, man. The dude has no fear. Him, Vicente Luque, are without a doubt my two favorite fighters right now to watch. I'm being perfectly honest with you. And I know those two already fought each other, and I'd love to see those two fight each other in a championship round setting. That would be great. Very unlikely happening. And when I looked at this card, and I saw Woodley versus Covington being the main event, I thought to myself, man, if Cerrone versus Nico Price was the main event, 5 rounds of action, without a doubt, could be the best fight of the year. I'm being that honest with you. It really could. If there was a lot more in line in this fight, other than like two dudes going at it though, and like we got two gatekeepers pretty much going at it here in the division, in the lightweight division. So if there was more at stake here, maybe this fight would have been a lot more exciting. But for what I got from this fight though, it was fun. The only issue that comes with the fight between Nico Price and Donald Cerrone, we got two dudes just going at it. We got Donald Cerrone laying in some really good leg kicks, body shots, and knees. Like, those are the best things about that Donald Cerrone did in the fight here. He had one takedown, and he did some clinch work against Nico Price, but for the most part here, Nico Price pretty much shredded Cerrone in the stand-up here. Like, non-stop. I think Nico Price attempted more hooks and uppercuts than he did jabs in this entire fight. But Nico Price deserves better. He really does. Because in the first round, Nico Price ended up poking the eye of Donald Cerrone twice. He poked him twice, which led to Nico Price getting -1 point. So even though, here's the thing, both the fight stats and the eye test say that Nico Price defeated Donald Cerrone. The only reason why Nico Price didn't beat Donald Cerrone was because of the eye poke. So he gets deducted -1 point, which leads to the second round, which honestly was Donald Cerrone's best round, but I always go by the fight stats. I always go by the numbers. If by the eye test it wasn't obvious for sure as to which fighter was exactly winning. And I think Nico Price had +4 in significant and total strikes landed. And then we get to the third round, to which was more Nico Price. So the judges' scorecards went out, and it was strange. So we had 27-29 Cerrone, 28-28, then another 28-28, and this fight ended up being a majority draw. Donald Cerrone looked surly, he looked upset, but when Bruce Buffer said, "It is a majority draw," you see Nico Price with a big face being like, "Yeah!" And I love Nico Price here because Nico Price, you can hear both fighters talking. Nico Price, he's giving fist bumps. He's constantly hugging. Like in the beginning of the second and third round, Nico Price was hugging Donald Cerrone in the beginning. And then when he eye poked him, he was like, "Oh man, Donald, oh, sorry bro. Sorry dude. You know I love you, man. You know I love you." Oh man, there needs to be more Nico Price. There needs to be more Nico Prices and more Donald Cerrones in the fight world. We really do need those types of fighters. And so, Nico Price, he got the -1 point. He kept apologizing. The dude Donald Cerrone was a tank, man. He took everything to a normal person, Nico Price, and if his punches would knock you out. Alright, to a normal person. The dude landed some harsh-looking haymakers, and he himself took a bunch of head kicks by Donald Cerrone. This is a battle between two tanks. And neither tank went down, and it ended up being a majority draw. And the truth is, if Nico Price was given the +1s, because both judges scored it +1 for Nico Price in the first round, it just, the -1 took that away. So when it gets to the second round, even though Nico Price obviously did much more better than Donald Cerrone, that -1 point negated everything. So Nico Price had to go win the second and third round. I know, scorecards were kind of off, really. Donald Cerrone was not happy, and here's the interesting part. So, when the fight was announced as majority draw, Donald Cerrone is like, "Man, I didn't do good." Then you see Nico Price being all excited, and Nico Price, he keeps hugging Donald Cerrone, and then as Nico Price is walking out the octagon, he puts both of his arms, he raises both of his arms in excitement, being like, "Yeah, man, woo!" And Donald Cerrone is being all surly, and he's like, "Oh man, how are you this excited, dude?" It was a fun fight. It sucked that we didn't get a definitive winner there. It sucked that Cerrone, he wasn't able to, he wasn't able to prove his doubters wrong. Coming to this fight, a lot of people thought Nico Price was the favorite to go win this fight. And Nico Price was doing well for himself. He fought exactly how a lot of people thought this fight would end up. It's just sadly, the eye pokes and the -1 points. And Donald Cerrone here, he didn't look good. He really didn't. He just didn't look good in this fight here. It was a good showing by Cerrone here, but in the scorecards, it was going to show, the reason why Cerrone, there's an asterisk to this, and that the only reason why Donald Cerrone didn't lose his fight was because of an eye poke, or because of 2 eye pokes. And so I think in the second round, both of them simultaneously eye poked each other. It's kind of weird. It was. But that to me was the fight of the night. It was a fun fight, contrary to how it went on in the first round here. But without a doubt, it was the most exciting fight of the entire night. And then going down here, we have Khamzat Chimaev, who, by the way, currently, as of right now, he is ranked number 1 in terms of being the fastest person to get 3 wins, and that's 66 days. I'm surprised Johnny Walker was able to get was first originally. Like, he was the fastest person ever to go get 3 wins with like 106 wins, and now he's second place behind Khamzat Chimaev, who is the fastest person with 66 days, 30 wins, and on top of that, Khamzat Chimaev is going to be fighting. I think next month. When is Chimaev's next matchup here? I know it's relatively close because I know there was a big deal coming out of it that Khamzat Chimaev was booked to go fight some other fighter, even though he was already booked for this fight. So win or lose, he was already booked in advance. So I'm right now checking up on like what's next on Khamzat Chimaev's next fight here. And but he fought against Gerald Meschartz, and one punch knockout, man. Yeah, so he knocked him out in a 17-second KO. So bell rings, and then both of them, they see each other. Khamzat Chimaev goes for a leg kick, and then right after a leg kick, he just comes in, right jab, knocks him out. No, not really knocks him out. He hits him with the one punch. Gerald goes down. He's already out of it. Referee should stop the fight, and then comes over. Does like 2 more punches in ground and pound, which led to referee stopping the fight, and Khamzat Chimaev ended up winning the fight just 17 seconds in. Dang. Really great training by Khamzat Chimaev. The hype is definitely real, and it was really funny because when it came to the post-fight interview, the only thing that was really clear as to what Khamzat Chimaev was saying was, "Hey Dana, 50 G's, baby. Yeah, 50 G's." You know, saying what Conor McGregor made famous. So, Khamzat Chimaev, man, you have to really lock up for the guy. Hopefully, they don't overly push him the way how they pushed. Who is that one kid again? The guy who fought against Marlon Chito Vera. Man, I'm actually forgetting his name. But Sean O'Malley, yeah. So hopefully they push Chimaev, right? Sean O'Malley, sadly, just didn't work out for him, dude. Hopefully Sean O'Malley can bounce back and Khamzat Chimaev doesn't end up in the same position that O'Malley is in right now. And then what else is going on in this card? We got another fun one here in Johnny Walker versus Ryan Spann. I was shocked looking at the betting odds here. A lot of people were doubting Ryan Spann. And this fight really was leading towards Ryan Spann winning up until the very end here. So the bell rings. Walker goes in for a leg kick, but Ryan Spann counters it with a left and a takedown. Then Walker gets right back up, but he's clinched onto the cage here. Ryan Spann, look at that. So he already checks a leg kick, counters with a left, gets a takedown. He's able to clinch him towards the cage here. Johnny Walker sucks when it comes to clinching. And then as they're clinching, Dominic Cruz, I don't know why he did this, but he was like, "Yep, there isn't a lot of technique here in this fight." Like, Dominic, why would you do that? I don't know. Why is Dominic Cruz so surly in the beginning? Like, the fight just started and they're clinching. Then Cruz like, "Yeah, there isn't a lot of technique in this fight. Don't expect anything that good looking in this fight, honestly." I don't know what's up with Cruz, man. Cruz can really get it at times. He can get really annoying, or he can just not say anything. It's strange. And so Ryan Spann gets a knockdown with a left hook and immediately goes on towards Mount. But here's the surprise part. Johnny Walker, known for his striking ability and really mediocre ground game, he was able to get out of mount position and get on top of Ryan Spann. But then again, he's a mediocre grappler, so Ryan Spann just gets up again. He gets another knockdown on Johnny Walker. Ryan Spann shoots in for a takedown, but Walker is able to sprawl through, and he laid in some like huge hammer fists. And then Johnny Walker ended up winning the fight via TKO in the first round. So it was more of a sense of Ryan Spann. No, I guess I gotta give Johnny Walker this really. So Ryan Spann, he went for a takedown. Walker sprawled. Walker started doing some hammer fists onto Ryan Spann's head, and Ryan Spann really didn't adjust himself or do anything. He was overly committed to the takedown that he just let himself get pummeled by Johnny Walker there. So I'm going to say right now, personally, I'm not being the biggest Johnny Walker hater here, but that's more of a sense of Ryan Spann's lack of fight IQ more than Johnny Walker's being a better fighter here, because in every facet of the fight game here, Ryan Spann was defeating Johnny Walker. He was. Spann was showcased a better arsenal of fighting here, and he looked better here. It just, his takedown was very suspicious, and he didn't adjust himself when he recognized that Walker was hitting on these huge hammer fists. So Ryan Spann gets knocked out via hammer fist by Johnny Walker. Good job there for Johnny, man. He's had a bad string of losses recently. He really has. And it's a good way for him to go be brought back up again. And then last but not least here, right before I get to commercial break here, we had Mackenzie Dern versus Brandon Marcos. Dern goes in for a roundhouse kick and falls back immediately awkward. That's going to be a gif you're going to pop up on Twitter sooner or later then. Like, bell rings, ring, ring, both fighters scrapping it. Dern goes roundhouse kick and falls. Like, her roundhouse kick is similar to my super kick in that I'm trying to kick the air as high as I can, but I lose balance and I just fall on my back and on my butt. And then Brandon Marcos looks confused, referee looks confused, Marcos goes in on her guard, and Dern, being an awesome submission specialist with a great jiu-jitsu level, she's a great jiu-jitsu level practitioner, she was able to go cinch in a triangle, and then from bottom position, move to an omoplata submission hold, which, to those of you who don't know what omoplata is, it means when you bring over one of your leg to go and pretty much you're hooking over your opponent from bottom positions, you're hooking your opponent's arm from bottom position. Then you go slide yourself out of it, which leads you to go on side position. Then from side position, she was able to go move her way towards an armbar, and Mackenzie Dern gets an armbar victory in the first round of fights. Her striking leaves a lot to be left desired. I still remember Mackenzie Dern's performance against Hannah Cyphers wasn't all that well in terms of the striking. Hannah Cyphers did better in the striking than Dern did. It just, Dern was lucky that Hannah Cyphers herself just didn't have any knockout power, and her striking wasn't all that threatening to be worried about in the first place. So she can go eat a couple punches in the face by fighters who are not really known for, high level striking or a high level power. But, in the higher tier, in the higher level, man, Mackenzie Dern can't get away with that stuff. She needs to definitely improve her striking. It is not good that you pretty much set yourself up to go get taken down through, because Mackenzie Dern was able to get her back onto the mat because she whiffed a kick. That's no bueno, girl. It's not bueno. That's what happened. And Dern, good job on her for getting a submission victory. Immediately, John Anik was comparing her to Ronda Rousey because they both are just steamrolling through their competition through armbar submission victories. You know what? Good. She is I think she's also still in her mid-20s only. So yeah, I think she's in her mid-20s. So she has a lot of years ahead of her, and she's got a bright future in the women's divisions. Just, she needs to work on her striking game right now. Her grappling, on point, great. Her reach, her length, her size, she has all the tools to be a future champion in the UFC. She just has to go and fine-tune it a wee bit. And if she can fine-tune it, she can be the next big thing in the UFC's women's divisions. She really can. And that brings us to a close for UFC Fight Night. Colby Covington versus Tyron Woodley. After the short break here, I'll be covering the world of mixed martial arts with the news brief. See you soon.
Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
And we are back. Welcome to the news brief. What's going on in the world of mixed martial arts? What is the aftermath of UFC Fight Night? Covington versus Woodley. Well, Dana White has a viewpoint of Tyron Woodley, and obviously those two don't have the best of relationship here. Dana White thinks that 38-year-old should consider moving on from the sports. This is coming in from MMA, by MMA Junkie, and also from the post-fight interview. He goes on to say, I think he should start thinking about hanging it up. White told reporters, including MMA Junkie, at the UFC and ESPN 36 post-fight news conference, he's had a great career. He's made his money. We all get old, man. This happens to the best of us. Woodley's had a good career. He's been a champion. He's been around for a while. He had a good run in Strikeforce too. And, well, to be perfectly honest with you, I definitely believe Woodley should retire. He really should. And the reason why I believe he should retire is because there was an instance when, and this has happened multiple times, back in the Gilbert Burns fight against Kamaru Usman, and this one, where you hear his corner crew, and they just sound so disappointed in him. They're always like, hey, Tyron Woodley, man, come on, do something. You're being really passive. Do something. And you hear Dominic Cruz, you hear Papa, you hear John Anik throughout his fight against Colby Covington. They're always saying, hey, Woodley, he's got all the tools to be a great fighter. If only he actually does something. And Woodley, he fights so the way he fights right now versus how he used to fight when on his route to the belt. Like, he fights so passively now. The best Tyron Woodley is one that is very aggressive and is willing to go and make it a scrap fight. But he doesn't want to make it a scrap fight because he's smart enough to know, okay, I don't want to deal with long-term injuries, so I'm going to fight passively here. And here's the truth. There's no way you can make it far in the fight game with that kind of attitude, especially if you're currently a challenger. You're not a champ. If you're a champion, okay, you can say, because the championship fighting style pretty much is you fighting safe and smart. Alright, Woodley isn't a champion anymore. He's not. Like, he needs to get, like, he needs someone to tell, like, it's similar to Carlos Esparza, similar to Michelle Watterson, similar to Claudia Cadella, in that you have these fighters here who fight very smart, fight very passive, and they're not moving anywhere up in the rankings. And in their recent fights, they've shown improvements, and they recognize, you know what? I'm fighting this sort of style, but there's no way I can move anywhere fighting this type of style. I just can't do that. And so, Tyron Woodley, unless, like, he gets it in his head where he's like, okay, I gotta fight like a reckless idiot because I can't continue fighting the way I'm fighting right now. No, I'm not telling him to fight like an idiot. I'm telling him to go and take more risks. And if he doesn't want to take risks, then you know what? He should leave the fight game. That's the honest truth. If he doesn't want to take risks, he should go out there and do something else then. Continue being a TMZ reporter. Continue, like, from making music. Continue being an actor. Then you can go and be safe and do some other sport then, or do some other, you know, activity or career. He's got the connections. He's got the talents. Here's the thing. I think Tyron Woodley, after this injury, I am pretty sure he's going to retire. Being totally honest with you. I believe that Tyron Woodley, he's going to look himself in the mirror, is going to be like, you know what? I really don't enjoy fighting anymore. I really don't. And you know what? He said it before in the past. He said it multiple times already. The way how he fights, it doesn't look like he enjoys fighting anymore. So yeah. I'm not feeling it anymore. I hope Tyron Woodley does retire because I do not want to see weird, awkward, boring, passive main events like those ever again. I just don't want to see it. So let's move on to something positive and new. We got this coming in by ESPN, being written in by Ariel Helwani. Israel Adesanya becomes first MMA fighter to land sponsorship deal with Puma. UFC champion Israel Adesanya is making some history ahead of his middleweight title defense next weekend. The undefeated Adesanya has signed a multi-year deal with Puma. The company announced Thursday he will be the face of Puma's Oceania division, but will also be part of its global marketing plans, sources say. Adesanya's deal is an apparel and shoe sponsorship, and he is the first MMA fighter to be sponsored by Puma. Per the UFC's uniform sponsorship deal with Reebok currently, and with Venom starting in April 2021, Adesanya can't wear Puma gear in the cage for his fights. You know what? Paige Van Zandt and other fighters I know are able to get away with doing sponsorship stuff through their Instagram. So the Venom deal, they can't wear Venom when they're participating in UFC events, but they themselves, out of their own accord, can go and promote Puma. Man, so yeah, good on you, Izzy. Dang, congratulations, man. You are making money in an industry where fighters are being underpaid. So good on you for that, man. Good on you. And this is now coming in from ESPN. Mike Rodriguez appeals loss to Ed Herman over ref's low blow ruling. This is being written in by Mark Ramondi. UFC light heavyweight Mike Rodriguez is appealing his loss on last Saturday to Ed Herman, saying he was penalized for a low blow that never occurred. Herman defeated Rodriguez by third-round submission at UFC Fight Night in Las Vegas. Rodriguez's team filed an appeal on Friday with the Nevada State Athletic Commission, asking for the bout to be overturned to at least to a no contest, according to Rodriguez's manager. In the second round, Rodriguez landed a hard knee to Herman's body in a clinch up against the cage. Herman immediately dropped and Rodriguez was preparing to follow up with punches in an effort to finish the fight. Instead, however, referee Chris Tagoni stepped in and called a paucity action. Tagoni thought Rodriguez landed his knee below Herman's belt line, which would be a foul, and went through the procedures of a low blow. He allowed Herman 5 minutes to recover. Herman continued on the fight, and he won it a round later. Rodriguez's cornermen were yelling at Tagoni to consult a replay, but Tagoni declined, shouting in the corner, "Enough." Rodriguez's team contends the referee and commission officials could have and should have looked at a replay, and that it should have been determined that Rodriguez's knee was legal and he was on the verge of winning by TKO. While the unified rules of MMA state that replays can be used only in fight ending sequences, which this one was not, Nevada regulations state that a free play can be used anytime during a bout. The referee may, at any time during a contest or exhibition, call a timeout to consult with officials of the commission to view the replay footage. However, while it is written, there is no real precedent for the use of replay in MMA in the States. There is no written procedure as to how or when it should be used. UFC President Dana White said he was outraged by Tagoni's call in the post-fight news conference, calling it the most disgusting thing that I've ever seen. Really, Dana? That's the most disgusting thing you've ever seen? A butchered ref call? Really? Oh man, Dad, you've lived a pretty sheltered life, man. I'm just saying. A referee making a mistake is the most disgusting thing you've ever seen. Oh wow, Dana, didn't know you were like that. Alright, so White and the UFC paid Rodriguez his win bonus for the fight, even though he technically lost. Listen, if the referee is that stupid that he didn't see what was up, that wasn't a low blow, Ed Herman's job is to get there and win a fight, and he did what he had to do. White said, "It's one of the most disgusting bad calls that I've ever seen in my life." Alright, Dana. Dang, I always love it when Dana White does hyperboles, but dang, that was the most disgusting ref call ever. I'm pretty sure there's a lot more disgusting stuff out there, and also disgusting ref calls that can go on and be like, ugh, man. And so we move on to BKFC. No, not a KFC sandwich, but a BKFC, and I mean former UFC heavyweight champion Frank Mir signs with BKFC. Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships is coming in by MMAfight.com. Frank Mir is heading to the world of bare knuckle fighting. You and other people, Frank. Sources close to the situation confirmed to MMA Fighting that Mir has signed with Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Following an initial report from Fight Bananas, Mir makes the transition after a professional MMA run that spanned nearly 2 decades. The 41-year-old made his UFC debut in his third fight at UFC 34 in November 2001. After a 5-1 start, he went on to go fight against Tim Sylvia, and this goes on like his career against like Antonio Rogero Nogueira and Brock Lesnar. Following a nearly 15-year run with the UFC, Mir signed with Bellator MMA back in 2018. After losing his first 2 fights to Fedor Emelianenko and Javiella, Mir would pick up a win over Roy Nelson at Bellator 231 this past October, and what would turn out to be his final MMA bouts. Nothing wrong having your last bout be against one of the all-time greats in Roy Nelson. He's one of my favorite fighters to watch in Roy Nelson. But he's also been doing a whole lot of commentary. I think he has a career in commentary or at ESPN, or he has a career definitely in terms of being an advocate for mixed martial arts or being a speaker for MMA. But I just really, that's the weird thing. He's a grappler, right? Frank Mir Frank Mir for the most part in his MMA career is known as a jiu-jitsu specialist or a grappler. Because the appeal of Frank Mir, or what made him so unique and interesting, was the fact that he was a heavyweight whose fighting style closely resembles to that of a light heavyweight or even a welterweight or middleweight, because the way how he moved around the octagon and his actual size and stature, he did not look like a heavyweight. He always looked smaller than any heavyweight he fought. He was a smaller guy all the time. And then after losing to Brock Lesnar in their second bout, Frank Mir started getting a whole lot of tattoos, and he started packing in a lot of weight, and they started knocking out people. And his arms started looking gigantic. The guy started looking jacked, but he also had like a weird white belly going on. Like Frank Mir he had this second phase of his career that's pretty much hard to distinguish between him and peak Frank Mir. Peak Frank Mir would go submit everybody. Then second phase Frank Mir would try to knock people out, and no one enjoyed second phase of Frank Mir because he was really weird looking. And he started like eating a lot. He started looking bigger. He went from being the smallest heavyweight to this guy who looked like Johnny Hendricks in the form of a heavyweight. It looked weird, man. It really did. So, you know what? Good for him for, you know, he's still pushing to be a knockout artist. I don't know what's up with Frank Mir, but for some reason, he's avoided doing this one thing he's really, really good at in the octagon, and that's grappling. Because he's a better grappler than he's a striker, and now he's going to do bare-knuckle fighting now. It made sense for Paige Van Zandt, since Paige Van Zandt is a better striker than she is a grappler. But for Frank Mir, I don't know what's up with him, man. It's like, I don't know who's been pressuring him, or where all this pressure is coming from, for Frank Mir to be, all of a sudden become this, like, big, scary knockout artist kind of guy. But you know what? It's his career. He can do whatever he wants to do. Alright, then, if he wants to do BKFC, and if he believes he's good enough to go knock people out or beat people in a striking exchange, you know what? That's on him. He's making money from this. He's probably also doing like color commentator job still for Bellator. So you know what? That's on him. Good for you, man. And that will settle things now for the news brief. Overall, UFC Fight Night Covington versus Woodley. Overall, from top to bottom here, it was a fun show. It definitely was. Maybe I find enjoyment off the bizarre weirdness in Covington vs. Woodley, and the presentation, and the fights, and the commentary team, like just everything about, and the build-up also. I'm right looking at the news brief right now. Apparently, Donald Trump, he just called Colby Covington right after the fight, and we see Colby Covington, he's wearing the MAGA hat, and he's wearing a blazer, but he's not wearing a shirt inside the blazer, so it looks really ill-fitting. He also looks really pink and red without the sunglasses, so you're seeing like the eyes of Colby Covington, like the sincere eyes of him. Weird image, really weird. And I'm right now looking at Twitter, discussing UFC Fight Nights, and Colby Covington winning, it really is pushing people away, but I'm looking at now, this coming by Jorge Andrade Mandaka. Okay, let's take politics out of things for a brief moment here. The President of the United States called a UFC fighter after victory night, considering how young the league is compared to others. That's an incredible moment for Dana White and the organization. It certainly is. It certainly is a moment, though, but there are a lot of people who are turned off by Colby Covington, and I don't believe Colby Covington. I know that's his character, that's his shtick, kind of like Chael Sonnen, and that you're trying to make yourself out to be much more of a bigger star than you actually are, and that's the appeal of you. I get it. But really, the same thing with Chael Sonnen, man. Like, he pushes away people from not wanting to go watch his product. Like, Chael Sonnen, it took a long while for me to become a fan of Chael Sonnen, but it's only after years of watching mixed martial arts, though, and I wouldn't be surprised if Colby Covington turns away those same people. So, yeah, Colby Covington, man, he had a good showing against Tyron Woodley. Do I think he's going to fight Kamaru Usman or Jorge Masvidal anytime soon? I really don't know. I really don't. But you know what? I can only speculate from this moment on, and I'm just excited for Gilbert Burns versus Kamaru Usman. That's a fight that I'm very excited for. But overall, UFC Fight Night, Covington versus Woodley. Fun card. I recommend everyone to go watch Nico Price versus Don Cerrone. Although the ending is kind of fishy, the fight in itself, super fun, and it's always fun watching somebody like Nico Price win, lose, draw. He's always in a good mood, and he was even able to go make Donald Cerrone, a guy who looked really pouty by the end of the fight, smile and giggle to himself. So that speaks words as to what type of person Nico Price is. Nico Price is a very respectable person, so is Donald Cerrone, and we're seeing these two great fighters go at it. Much more enjoyable than the main event, and I wish Nico Price versus Donald Cerrone was the real main event. And that brings to a close. All I gotta say is thank you. Thank you for listening to the GSMC MMA podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. So please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you, and have a good night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts MMA Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.